Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, remember, these are all companies I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies. You should be using them too. So take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors because I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to their website. You can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. Probably the best equipment purchase I've ever made as an athletic director. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that demo today. We also want to thank Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years. As an AD, we were a Huddle school, and our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just love the platform. Go to huddle.com. Join the 100 million fans. Turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. We also want to thank Vital Signs and Beacon Creative. Now, Vital Signs has been helping schools share their legacies for years, but Beacon Creative is a new content creation service where you don't have to lift a finger. Just send in your raw data, bullet points on your students, your teams. Beacon Creative does the rest. I want you to email John Townsend. That's John at beaconwalloffame.com. You're going to be glad you did. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. Scheduling, rosters, results, facilities. How about athletic eligibility and clearance? Home Campus does all this and more. Go to homecampus.com and don't forget to mention the podcast. Let's say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com. Let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru. Social media posts, text, videos, newsletters. The team at Gipper is going to have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast. We want to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant AD, along with thousands of others, got his master's, and while he was earning his degree, he also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We also want to say thanks to Hometown. Hometown continues to change the game for schools and organizations with things like digital ticketing. What a shock. They're the leading digital ticketing provider. But how about athletic website construction? Fee-free fundraising. If you're a principal, if you're an AD, even if you're a coach, Hometown's going to show you how to save time, how to raise more money, and how to bring your community together. You'll find it all at hometown.com. And let's say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents, your student athletes, even your coaches, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that really connects you with your stakeholders. The website is Athletic Surveys. Check them out today. And as always, tell them you heard about it on the Educational AD Podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We truly have a friend of the show on today. She's back for, I think it's her third time around on the podcast. We're doing things backwards, though. Our guest today is Tara Rose. Regular listeners will certainly recognize that name. Tara's a certified athletic administrator. She's the director of athletics at St. Croix Falls High School. It's up in the Great White North, just about. Tara first came on the podcast. She was part of our very successful Small School Athletic Director feature that became the Small School Athletic Director book. We had her on recently, just before the NADC. She did a Wednesday Wisdom segment, just some great, great tips. Go back and listen to both of those episodes. And I finally figured, boy, we need to get her on for her own interview and episode. So she's joining us today. Tara Rose, welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. I always love being on here and talking with you and networking and learning, sharing, all the things.
Well, again, you and I have talked about this before. You're not a rookie by any means of the description of an athletic director, but again, you're at the beginning of hopefully it's going to be a long journey for you, and you're what I like to call one of those fresh new voices. Using tried and true best practices, but maybe using them in a slightly different way. Let's go and jump right in. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us your quick bio. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Maybe in this first segment, just take us up through your own college days. We're going to hear about your career journey later, but what's the Tara Rose origin story?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Baldwin, Wisconsin, which is in the northwest part of the state, about an hour from where I am now. Um, Loved sports growing up. Both of my parents coached me. I was a three-sport athlete in high school: volleyball, basketball, and softball. For any people that have been around Wisconsin for a while, Wade Lebecki was my high school AD, and he ended up working for the WIA. And he was there for a long time and just retired before Steph Hauser took over as executive director. And then I went on and I played Division III softball at UW Stout. I was a college pitcher and I loved my playing days in college. And then from there, I transitioned to teacher and coach, and yeah, and got married, had kids, have done all the things in life, and I've been really blessed. And athletics gave me it was a huge part of my path growing up, and even in college, I knew one day I thought I'd like to be an athletic director. So, and here I am.
And here you are, exactly. Podcasts, books, you name it. I just love hearing the stories that athletic directors, bring to the table. Let's go back to, that growing up part. It sounds like you were in a sports family. What are some of those memories? Were there siblings? Were there neighbor kids? Was it backyards, or was it mom and dad driving you to, let's say, organized sports? What are some of your memories of those early years?
So I have a brother, an older brother who's 5 years older than me. He was a four-sport athlete, and him and I played a lot of sports because, of course, he was my babysitter growing up. Once he reached a certain age, I remember getting hauled around to all of his games: football, basketball, baseball. He also played tennis. And I grew up on a field. I was on a softball field every weekend. Where I was at growing up, we did not have a lot of like travel softball teams at this time in the early 2000s. So I always played with a team from the Twin Cities. Growing up, I played in the Twin Cities. I loved, and I played with whatever team would have me. And it wasn't like these all-star tryouts. It was kind of like, there was, yeah, some really elite teams, but at the time it was a lot of that. It was a lot of open gyms, a lot of camps, lots of summer camps. And ironically enough, growing up, I loved basketball. I thought that's for sure what I was going to do. I'm going to play basketball. I'm going to be in the WNBA. That was the dream for young. And my maiden name was Tara Kimberly. So Tara felt like, yep, that's what I'm going to do. I played AAU growing up, and then I had some experiences with basketball that didn't make it as fun. Still enjoyed it. And as a freshman in high school, I was an average high school pitcher, but our high school team did not have a pitcher. Like I was basically it. So as a freshman, started at varsity level. And that was probably the best team I played on in high school. I had amazing athletes around me, a great catcher. And all I threw was a fastball and a changeup. That's it. That's all I had. I controlled the zone really well. I threw a lot of spots, just mixed in my fastball and changeup, and we won the conference that year. And it was a pretty successful year. And I just kind of fell in love with softball at that moment. As a freshman, having success, and then I dove headfirst into pitching. And I still do pitching coaching. I still work with some pitchers at UW Stout. I work with young girls. That's kind of my area that I still coach in. And I tell girls over and over and over, you can do so much with a fastball and changeup. So can baseball pitchers. And you don't have to be throwing a drop or a rise when you're a fifth grader. I picked up a rise ball as a junior in high school, and it was my best pitch in college. So I didn't start throwing it until my junior year of high school. It's just So it was just kind of funny how my life shifted from very much basketball focused in all of middle school. And then in high school, I just had such a positive experience with softball that softball kind of became my world in terms of what I did in college. And that was the coach it's the sport I coach. It's the sport I still coach. And so, but just lots of memories. I still feel very comfortable on a ball field in the summer, brings back all the good memories. So, yeah.
You mentioned earlier that not a lot of travel team stuff when you were younger. As you got into high school, and now you're a three-sport athlete, and of course, you're so much younger than I am. I'm way old. There wasn't any travel back in my day. Do you ever recall one of your high school coaches going, Tara, you shouldn't be playing basketball. You should play softball year round. Was that a thing for you? Did that ever happen?
No. I chose to pitch year round. I took the initiative of me and my dad went into school before school 2 or 3 times a week all year long. That's just what I wanted to do. And I remember my basketball coach saying, like, oh, take it easy. It's game day. And I'm like, oh, if you're going to make me choose between basketball and softball, I don't think you want me to choose. And he was super supportive. And funny enough, my high school basketball coach was a men's fast pitch player as well. So just he totally loved it. He was a really good coach. And so I just know I had my own motivation. I never felt pressure to play year round. There really wasn't. There was an option, but it was just not common like it is now. And I grew up in a relatively smaller school. We had 400 and some kids, and it was just expected that everyone played 2 or 3 sports because that's what you did. You helped your team win, and you played 3 sports because it was you were doing it for your team and for your community, and you just did that. That's just, and we still have that here in St. Croix Falls. We have a lot of kids that take a lot of pride in helping the Saints win and wanting to do that. And but it's definitely gotten harder with club volleyball and travel softball and AAU, and I think kids are feeling more pressure nowadays than ever. I know they are, but
Right.
finding that balance and finding coaches that understand I think is really important.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, that sound you hear is all of our listeners applauding, that, yeah, you do it for your school, and that's how it should be. Those other
Yeah.
teams are there. That's great to augment. But yeah, do it for your school. Real quickly, let's go and talk about your college days. Small school, but you
Yep.
you pitched collegiately. What are some of your memories of those days?
Yeah. So, yeah, I pitched at UW Stout. Probably one of my most distinctive memories. I mean, besides the memories of like just having fun with my teammates, they're still some of my best friends today. And we just kind of pick up where we left off. We're kind of all over Wisconsin and Minnesota. And I love travel. We always traveled to Florida for spring break. I really enjoyed those trips. But I very distinctly remember we always played double headers, and we're in the WIAC. And shout out to the WIAC because the WIAC is the Wisconsin Division III conference. It is one of the best in the nation. UW River Falls is playing for the National Football Championship on January 4th. Like we in the WIAC, it has phenomenal Division III sports, regularly beating Division II schools. So I take a lot of pride in playing there and being part of that. We played Platteville, which was a conference school. We were down in Platteville. It was legitimately maybe 40 degrees and like raining or sleeting the whole doubleheader. The whole doubleheader. And I pitched both ends of the games and had two of the best games of my career in miserable weather. My curveball was working fantastic, and we were just grooving with it. We won one game 3-2. We lost 2-1. And I just very distinctly remember feeling frozen, but really happy with how I performed that day and I think my biggest joy in college was um, I think many of us that played in college, regardless of the level, Division I, two, or three, JUCO, NAIA, you were one of the best players in high school. Everyone that moves on to play in college was one of your best players in your high school. You were all region, all state, whatever. And then I moved on to high school or into college, and I had, a decent career, but I wasn't overpowering. I wasn't amazing. I wasn't just blowing people away. But what I learned in college was how to be a great teammate, how to play a role when you weren't the best pitcher always, when you weren't the best player always, when you sat the bench. I sat the bench for 2 years. I didn't really pitch much until my junior and senior year, and I played on every team in high school. I wasn't used to sitting, I wasn't used to not starting. And I very distinctly have memories of lessons where my coach was like, you need to be a good teammate. That's your role on the team right now. Right now, your job. And I very much also remember, prepping our team in a bullpen session. I would be throwing to our girls and throwing rise balls or drop or whatever we knew we were facing. And my role, regardless of whether I ever got on the field that day, my role was to prep our hitters for them. And that was an important role. And so learning and that's something I very much instill in my coaching staff. I very much instill with my athletes how important every role in the team is. And I take a lot of pride in making sure kids are valued, regardless of whether they're a starter or not. Whenever we have a state bound pet fest, I always talk about those kids that are not starters because it's very much, I learned that kind of that phrase of you're only as good as your weakest link. I really learned what that meant in college. And it was very humbling in a really good way. And I'm really thankful for that experience as it made me a much better coach and a much better athletic administrator in the long run. And a parent too, for when my kids play sports and, they're not going to always be the best, not going to be the starter. And I wish more parents knew that they may not get the playing time they want, but they are playing an important role. They're helping their team, they're practicing, they might be playing scout team. Those things matter, and especially on successful teams. And so that was just a big lesson that I learned in my college career that has stuck with me my whole life so far, and will stick with me my whole life.
Oh, I really appreciate you sharing that. And you're absolutely right that, particularly parents of the kids this generation, so many of them did not play sports back in the day, and they have no idea about how the sport experience plays out at so many different levels. Great stuff. Okay. Let's go and take our first break. Our guest today is Tara Rose. She's a certified athletic administrator. She's the director of athletics at St. Croix Falls High School. That's up in the great state of Wisconsin. We'll take that break, but we're coming back, so please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Sideline Interactive Indoor Score Tables and Video Boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. Probably the best equipment purchase I ever made as an athletic director was our Sideline Interactive Indoor Score Table. We use it for home games, of course, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. Their products are tremendously versatile and their customer service just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Tell them you heard about it on the podcast. Schedule that live web demo today. Sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to thank our friends at Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, and our parents loved the streaming, but there's a lot more. Go to huddle.com, join the 100 million users, and find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com.
We are a Huddle school as well, and I can't tell you how easy it is with Huddle. And biggest thing our coaches like about it is a lot of them they get their stats done from Huddle, and they get a scouting report from Huddle, which is fantastic, time saver for them. So it's been really nice to have them in our school as well.
Boy, that's so nice to hear. Thanks for sharing that. I always love it when I hear good things about the Huddle platform. It was such a game changer for me. I still remember those days 100 years ago as an assistant coach driving 3 hours in the morning to hand off that VHS tape for your next week opponent. Let's get back to the podcast. Once again, for listeners, our guest today is Tara Rose. She's a certified athletic administrator. Tara, you shared kind of your journey growing up. Now let's share that career journey that's brought you to St. Croix Falls. You're a recent graduate from UW Stout. What was that first job that got you going on this path to becoming an AD?
Job. So when I graduated with a BS in science education. I was a biology major, chemistry minor. I grew up thinking I would be a doctor. I enjoyed science, biology, and chemistry. But I was like, I don't want to go to school that long, and I want to coach. That was a big, goal to coach. So right out of the gate, I applied and got a job at Amory High School, which is about 25 minutes from where I am right now. And right away, I started teaching biology, physical science, and then I got into chemistry. I spent 8 years there. And in those 8 years, I was an assistant volleyball coach, an assistant basketball coach, an assistant powerlifting coach, helped in the weight room in the summer and just weight training. And I was a head softball coach for 8 years. And during that time, I went to get my master's degree in educational leadership from St. Mary's University of Minnesota. It was kind of a hybrid program, some online, some in person meeting in like a cohort. And I loved that program. I loved that it was focused on leadership and how you develop that and your own leadership style and how you build, a culture of leadership. How do you inspire others to be great leaders? And that's when my passion for leadership really, I'd always kind of had one, but I think I developed kind of my own style and started to understand what that looked like even more so. And after that, I started applying for jobs in athletic administration. But a majority of the jobs in Northwest Wisconsin, which is where my family is and where we kind of wanted to stay, most of the jobs are AD/AP, so assistant principal. And at that time, I didn't have my principal license. So then I went through a program to add on my principal license. It was a program where if you had your master's degree, you could add on a principal license. So I went through that program, and that I had an amazing advisor in that program. She was fantastic, great leader. And to see for me, I didn't see a lot of female leaders in terms of coaches, principals, administrators growing up. And she was so fantastic. I learned a lot from her about tons of things. And so I really appreciated that program. And as I was finishing that program, I was applying for jobs that spring. I got offered a couple jobs that spring. And St. Croix Falls just really felt like home. It felt like the size of school that I wanted to send my kids to because I figured wherever I go, my kids are probably going to go because otherwise I won't really see them. As as an athletic director, you kind of live at school, and this was just the town, the community, everything about it, the athletic program really fit, and it has fit. And even when I was at Amory, as I was going through my master's program and my principal program, I was doing a lot of hours. You had to get hours to get those certifications and those licensures. And I did a lot with my ADs there. I did a lot of supervision. I supervised when I was done coaching for girls basketball, I supervised almost all the girls basketball games. So I was getting to know the officials in the area, getting to know coaches in the area, and just what it looked like to manage a game. And that was very helpful. I started doing stuff with budgets. I started to do more with the, kind of communication and what it looks like to do more with social media for a school. And then I landed in St. Croix Falls. And this is year 13 in education, year 5 as an athletic administrator. So I've really only been in 2 districts. I've taught in 1 district for 8 years, and now I've been an athletic administrator. And in my career here, I've been a teacher/AD. So I have taught a block class and also done typically some RTI math. So I have like a small math group and a class. So on average, I teach about 2 to 2.5 hours a day, and then have other time to do athletic director work throughout my day.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this before. Obviously, ADs, any AD wears a lot of hats. You know, at your school, and you're not a tiny school, but you do wear quite a few hats. Um, have you had any conversations with your school leadership? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but about um, sometimes principals, superintendents, they really don't understand the reach of the director of athletics and how many things are on their plate. Oh, you can be an AP and you can teach two courses and things like that. Have you had that discussion about, hey, AD's really kind of a full-time job, and I'm sure you love what you do, but have you had that discussion yet? Do you see yourself becoming more of a full-time AD? I guess is my question.
Um, so, yes, I have. And I get it. Budgets are tight and you're trying to figure things out. My current administration is super supportive and it's not like they haven't wanted to do that. They're just trying to figure out how. And they get it. Like they really do. My current superintendent was a former AD for a while. Like he's always told me, he's like, you have the toughest job in the district. No doubt. Like you have the toughest job in the district. You work long hours, and I get calls when a bus tire blows, because we had that happen this year. You get calls when somebody's sick on the bus. We got to call mom and dad. I had this year I had a little girl who got sick at a volleyball game, and mom and dad aren't here, so I'm trying to get a hold of grandma. There's so many things that fall on the plate of an athletic director that people have no idea. The calls you take, the messages you take, just all the things. We have had that conversation, and uh, actually next year, this is the board actually just approved it. I will be on probably like a 75% admin contract, and I'll be full-time AD without teaching. And have a little bit more flexibility in my hours to work from home in the morning because I'm here so long. So that was something I really advocated for as my kids are going through school right now. I have three boys who are now they're playing all the sports, basketball, wrestling, baseball, soccer, football, all the things. So, and the board was super supportive. I have an amazing school board here. Amazing. They are very supportive of me. They're very supportive of athletics. And they were kind of like, we want Tara here and we want her happy. So let's make it happen. And I can't thank them enough. And I don't want to leave here at this time. I want to stay here. And so having a board and administrators that have been flexible and willing to work with me means the world to me. So,
Well, and those types of feelings coming from the board, that doesn't happen without the other end of that equation, an athletic director who is knocking it out of the park. Obviously, you're doing great things.
thank
Um,
you.
let's go and take our next break. And when we come back, we're going to take a deep dive into all things St. Croix Falls athletics with our guest, their athletic director, Tara Rose. So let's take that break, and we're coming right back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Beacon Creative Wall of Fame. Now, Vital Signs Wall of Fame has been helping schools share their legacy for a decade, but now Beacon Creative has added a content creation aspect to it. Reach out to them and just give them your bullet points, your raw data on student athletes, on coaches, on your program. Beacon Creative is going to create compelling stories that you can then share on your digital platforms. It's really, you got to see it to believe it. I want you to email John Townsend, and you can reach him at John, John, at beaconwalloffame.com. That's John at beaconwalloffame.com. We also want to say thank you to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every single day. Scheduling, rosters, results, communication. How about facility management? Your athletic clearance and eligibility platform alone, you're going to think it's a game changer. To find out more, just go to homecampus.com. That's it, homecampus.com. And we want to say thank you to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com. Let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru. Whether it's a simple social media post to celebrate a victory or an entire newsletter to showcase all the great things that your athletic department's doing, the team at Gipper will have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com to find out more. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast. That's Gipper.com. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Tara, you've kind of shared your journey. Now let's hear a little bit about St. Croix Falls. Share with our listeners the enrollment, the types of programs you offer, and maybe a couple things that you're really proud of.
Yeah, so St. Clair Falls is on the smaller side of schools, medium to small in the state of Wisconsin. We have about 350 kids in our high school, and I oversee both high school and middle school athletics. The ones that we offer through the school, some of them are youth programming. We offer, your typical sports. We don't offer lacrosse. We don't offer some of the more, gymnastics, swim and dive. We just don't have a big enough school to offer some of those sports. We recently added a girls wrestling program. Our wrestling program is incredibly strong. They were the Division II, which is the medium school division, state champs last year for the boys in the state of Wisconsin. And so both our boys and girls teams are incredibly competitive for our size of school. Super, proud of that program and having that adding that girls program. And this is not me, this is our coaches and our kids. They've been huge trailblazers in Northwest Wisconsin for girls wrestlers. They've kind of set the tone. We host a big tournament for them, which is awesome. We've won state titles in baseball and volleyball in the last few years. It's been very fun for me. We co-op for boys and girls hockey and for soccer with some other smaller schools in the area. So yeah, and tonight I host a basketball doubleheader, kind of Christmas theme. So that'll be really fun at home before we go into the holiday break.
Wow. I guess the co-op function, I don't think some of our listeners might be familiar with that. Can you explain a little bit about how that works?
Yep. So a co-op team is when like two or more schools combine together to form a team. It's really common for hockey in the state of Wisconsin. So we co-op with the neighboring school, Somerset, for boys hockey. It's just Somerset and us. You take the combined population of both schools for your team. So when you take on a co-op team, you take the 350 from our school and the 400 from their school, and then your team's population would be 700 or 650 and whatever it is. And so we send our kids to Somerset, and the main reason is we don't have a indoor rink here in St. Clair Falls. We have an outdoor rink, which is actually really fun to host outdoor events when it's not totally freezing. But it's a really cool atmosphere at the outdoor rink. And so both our boys and girls hockey co-op with Somerset, and then we co-op with another school, Unity, for soccer. And that's more of a split co-op where both me and the Unity athletic director do stuff for the co-op. For the hockey co-op, we just send them down there. Their AD runs scheduling and officials. We just make sure that they have, their concussion screening and their eligibility. But it's basically, working with another school to make sure that you have enough players for a team. And generally, you wouldn't co-op unless you needed that school to make, or both schools need each other to make a team. Pretty common in the state of Wisconsin for hockey, for gymnastics, some of those other sports that you maybe need a few more people than your school can provide.
Now, you and I have spoken quite a bit before about professional development. I know it's a passion of yours for your coaches. What are some things that you've been able to do in your time at St. Croix Falls to help in this area? Because I think it's something that athletic directors love to do for their coaches, but sometimes they just don't get a chance to do.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, every one of my coaches, we pay for them to be part of their coaching organization and send them to the clinic if they want to. We want them, we encourage them, be part of the coaching organization for your sport, and please go to your clinic, get involved, network those. So that's, kind of the baseline. In the last few years, I've been able to bring in a sports psychologist to talk to both athletes and coaches. We've talked about, weight training specialty. We've brought in a nutritionist to talk about nutrition for things, like that. So kind of bringing in guest speakers. But one of the biggest things that I implemented over the last year is I send them professional development emails every 2 to 3 weeks. So I do, and how I make this work is I schedule send them in the summer because once school gets going, I get really busy. And so in the summer, I plan out the 20 emails that I'm going to send to my staff, and I have them scheduled throughout the year. Here's what I'm going to send. And there's different topics. The last topic, the last one I sent out was about Christmas and just sending about gratitude, like how grateful I am for them, things like that. But previously, we've talked about what does good leadership look like? Here is a leadership activity that you can implement with your team. Here is a exercise in growing confidence on your team. Try to implement this. Here's a drill for mental toughness. So I try to give them things that they can implement, that any coach could implement in their practice that will help with confidence, mental toughness, leadership, integrity, team building activities. And I want the coaches to be able to read it when they have time to do so. And I want it to be that something that they can take from it and implement very easily because I've just given it to them. And so I've had coaches really enjoy that. And I also highlight my coaches in that. So I might highlight my wrestling coach in one of the emails. So I give them a tidbit, and then I really want to grow a sense of like culture within our coaches. And then the last thing I've been doing is when we have our coaches meetings, we also do professional development together and networking. I've actually been working to implement so that, say I was just talking to my football coach. My football coach and I had our exit interview, obviously in November, and he was talking about how he did like mid-season talks with his kids and with his coaches, and postseason like exit interviews. And I said, can you share about that more at one of our coaches meetings? So having the coaches share things that they're really good at. So I try to, in my postseason meetings with my coaches or preseason, say, oh, I really like that. Can you share that with our whole staff? Because as much as I'm sure as they love listening to me, they much rather would learn from each other, just kind of like kids would too. So those are some ways that we've implemented. And the other thing is I model professional development. I'm at our state conference. I'm at the national conference. I'm taking LTI courses. I'm teaching LTI courses. Professional development and growth are incredibly important to me. And if they're important to you, then you need to model that and show your coaches, hey, this is what good professional development looks like. And here's how we're going to do it. So that's how we do it.
Oh, and again, a couple of great points. You talk the talk, but you also walk the walk. Obviously, your involvement with NIAAA, speaks volumes. We're going to talk about that in our next segment. But involving your staff in the professional development, having your coaches present during those monthly coaches meetings. I heard that from an AD, and I go, wow, what a great idea. I started doing that with my coaching staff, and it was just so well received. They got a kick out of it. Some great ideas were shared. And as you mentioned, we can even pick up tips from our coaches during that time. We're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but I want to do it now. If one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, find out how you do things at St. Croix Falls, or just add you to their network, what's the best way that our listeners can connect with Tara Rose?
Yeah, you can find me on the school. So you can look up St. Croix Falls High School in Wisconsin, but you can email me at Rose, ROSETA at scfschools.com. You can also find me on socials. You could find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok. I've created more of a professional TikTok, and I've been really networking with athletic directors on TikTok, and I met a couple of them at the National Athletic Directors Conference. So I think it's a fun way to share kind of the behind the scenes of what we're doing, and just network that way too. Social media has that cool way of being able to do that too.
Yeah. And you can also find Tara's information on the NIAAA membership portal. She's on LinkedIn, and again, she does a pretty good job on social media. Let's go and take another quick break. I know that's shocking to our regular listeners, but we are going to come back with more, so please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'd like to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant athletic director, along with thousands of others, got his master's through the Ohio program, and it was a great experience. And while they were earning their degrees, they also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We also want to say thanks to Hometown. Hometown continues to change the game for schools and organizations with their solutions that includes things like, well, digital ticketing. They're still the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. But how about fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction? The list just goes on and on. Go to hometown.com, whether you're a principal, an athletic director, or even a coach. They're going to show you how to save time, how to raise more money, and how to bring your community together. That's hometown.com. And as always, tell them you heard about it on the Educational AD Podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Tara, we mentioned a couple times, you are a certified athletic administrator. That doesn't happen by accident. Can you share how you got involved with, well, maybe your state association, but also how'd you get involved with NIAAA?
Kind of a funny story of how I got involved with my state association. So when I took the athletic director position, I was pregnant. I was about 12 weeks pregnant. And people are like, you're insane. Yes, I am. So having a baby, a new job, being an athletic director, I have an amazing spouse. He's amazing. I can't thank him enough. But so I am 9 months pregnant and I'm at our football scrimmage. I get a call from the neighboring school that we're supposed to play. And this is in 2021. They have COVID on their team, so we can't play them. Week one, we don't have a game, and I'm a brand new administrator. And so I am emailing everyone in the state. I'm calling everybody and I'm freaking out. Oh my gosh, I can't be the new AD that lost a game one football. I'm losing my mind. And Sean Groshak, who at the time was at Amherst, he's an AD and very active in our state association. Amherst needed a game. So we hooked up and we sent our kids to Amherst. And I watched that game in the delivery room because I was having a baby. And Sean called me and we were talking about things as our kids, because Amherst is like 3.5 hours from us. They're near Stevens Point, and our kids headed over there. And Sean was talking to me and he's like, what are you doing? Are you okay? I'm like, oh, I'm in labor. He's like, what is wrong with you? Get off the phone, go have a baby. And that connection with Sean was our president-elect for WADA that year, I think. He was on the executive board. And he was basically like, you have to come to WADA. You're going to be here. You're a new, young, you're very good at what you do already. He was so complimentary, so nice and supportive that I had to check out our state association. And as soon as I went to WADA, which is our Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association conference and meetings, I knew I was hooked for life. It is the most supportive group of people. My husband came to our past president's dinner this year with me, and he said, I get why you love being with them. Because when you're a coach and you're networking with coaches, you're still kind of competitive and you don't want to give them too much of your secrets. Athletic directors are like, no, take it, steal it, use it. They are so helpful because they know how hard this job is. Anything they can do to help make your job easier, they will. It's the most supportive group of professionals I have ever met, times a million. And so I've been going to our state conference and I noticed people with like these CAA and RAA and CMA. I'm like, what are those fancy words? Like, what do those letters even mean? And so I think in my first year they're like, are you a CAA? I'm like, I don't know. And I had no idea what that was. And so after, as the clinic's going on and the conference is going on, I'm asking about that. And they're like, oh yeah, those are distinctions. Like those are certifications you can get. I'm like, oh, okay. So I learned a little bit about them. Year two, I hear more about what they are, what are LTI courses. And after I had kind of a couple years under my belt, I'm like, okay, this is definitely something I want to get. I want to grow professionally. I want to learn from the best in the business. So I start taking, of course, I take LTI 501, 502, and you take your first law course. You think you're going to get sued tomorrow. You take one of those. And I love the networking that you get and just the camaraderie of taking those classes. And so once I had what I needed class wise to get my CAA, I registered for the CAA exam and I, passed it obviously. And then in the last few years, I've been lucky enough as I've gotten more involved with our state association. I wanted to be really involved. So I ran for vice president last year at our state conference and won that seat. And so this year right now, I'm the WADA vice president, and I'm really proud of the organization and to be able to serve and help and represent. And the biggest reason I ran is because in the state of Wisconsin, we had not had an athletic director from a small school on the board in a while, and we haven't had any schools from the northern part of the state represented on the executive board for years. And I just felt like we need to have that representation. And I want the Northwest and the northern part of the state to have their voices heard. And their voices were heard, but when you're in Madison and Milwaukee, it's like you're in a very different world compared to rural Northwest, northern Wisconsin. The weather is different, especially in the spring. The difficulties we're facing. Again, athletic directors are super supportive, but if you don't know, you don't know. So you can't advocate for change. You can't do those things. And then getting involved at the executive board level, I've been now going to the national conference, and I was able to moderate a session at the national conference, take more LTI classes. I actually just had a conversation, was it yesterday, about being on an NIAAA committee. I want to be able to get more involved and network and learn at the national level, because last year when I went to Austin at my first, I again fell in love with it. I'm like, I don't know what it's going to take, but I need to make sure I fundraise enough money, and I'm advocating to my administration that I got to be here every year I can be, because it's just such great professional growth. And like for me, being a female, and we have a female forum at the National Athletic Director, and it's so powerful and so inspiring to know that we're in this together, we're seeing the same challenges and we're facing the same things, and seeing the growth for that. So I can't speak loudly and proudly enough for WADA and NIAAA, because they're both amazing organizations that I'm really happy to be a part of and be a member of.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you talked about that trajectory of getting more involved, joining committees, participating at the national level, teaching LTI courses.
Mhm.
I got to ask, have you thought about that CMAA project coming down the road? What's that going to be?
Yes. I think I'm going to apply this spring, winter, spring. I believe I have enough classes now. And the project, eventually I'd like to get my QPA. I don't think I'm quite ready for that amount of work quite yet. I think I've only heard amazing things about the QPA. But I'd like to get my CMAA first. I kind of want to step things out. And my project, and something I'm really proud of is, we've done it for now 3 years, with the help of others, but I've really taken over the planning and implementing of a leadership and sportsmanship summit for our conference. And of course, the other ADs have helped. And during the day, we are all doing things together, but I've really taken the lead on planning. We all work to kind of get a keynote speaker, but I put together kind of the structure and what activities we're going to do with leadership. How are we going to teach it? And I kind of moderate the event. I do the kind of the icebreaker things, and our other ADs are they're wonderful within the conference. So I'm really passionate about leadership and teaching our kids how to be great leaders, because that lifelong skill is just so important. And that's what I want our kids to be able to take from our programs. So I'd really like for that to be my CMAA project presentation. That that leadership and sportsmanship summit is kind of my baby, and I'm really proud of it. We do it every September, and I think the kids, coaches, and athletic directors come away with a lot every year from it. So
Oh, it sounds wonderful. I think it'd be a great project. And, for listeners, your state, every state has a certification coordinator that you can reach out to and get some direction for, taking the CAA exam, for
yep.
submitting your CMA project. Many states also have an LTI coordinator. On certification questions, I am happy to serve as a resource for projects or others. So start with your state first, but if you need some extra help, please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help you. Well, Tara, this has been so cool connecting with you again, but we're not done. We always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. Now, you certainly established that you know your way around the world of athletics. So we're going to take our final break, hear from Athletic Surveys, who sponsored this segment. When we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new AD on their first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 tools in the toolbox. So let's hear from Athletic Surveys, and when we come back, we're going to see what Tara Rose puts in her new athletic director toolbox. We want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. At my school, we use surveys for just about everything, for student athletes, for our coaches, even for our parents. And here's the cool thing. The information that would come back on these surveys, almost always over the top positive. We still got to hear from our squeaky wheel parents, but the surveys allowed us to hear their concerns, usually address them before they turned into something big. But getting back to that feedback, having all of that positive data, incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with a frustrated parent or maybe your principal, sometimes even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with somebody I like to call a friend of the show. Tara Rose has a tremendous background in athletics, but right now I'm going to challenge her to send out a brand new AD on their first job, but I'm only going to let her put 3 tools in the toolbox. So, Tara, what 3 tools are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
This is such a great question, and to limit it to 3 is really hard. But I've been thinking about them. The first one is communication. You can never over communicate in this job. And if you think you have, you probably haven't. And I also, the form of communication is really important. You do want to email, but you also need, like, I have learned more and more, almost one of my first things I do in the morning is, if a coach had a game last night, I walk to them. How did it go? How are you feeling? So that's like, and that one-on-one, and then notes, like literally writing thank you notes to officials, writing them to game workers, writing them to our coaches. That stuff really, really matters. And I think that that's important. So the communication is number 1. Number 2 is service, serve others. Like, just what do you need? That is, I think, a question that you have to have as an athletic director. What do you need? How can I help? Whether that be to the custodians, to the bus drivers, to your game workers, to your officials, obviously to your coaches and your student athletes, but to your administrators, to your teachers. I can't tell you how much my teachers appreciate when I, as the athletic director, say, how can I help? How can I help bridge the gap between student athletes and teachers? So just serving others, this is a service-based job. And if that's not something you want to do, I wouldn't do it. And the third thing is something that I shared with one of my coaches, professional development, and I think this is a big one. Assume best intentions. Because I think so often we get so defensive and we are instantly thinking, oh, that coach did it on purpose, or that parent did it on purpose. nine times out of 10, when we assume best intentions, number one, it probably was best intentions. It's not like they're trying to make people mad, but that just like when you assume best intention, it calms everything down. I've learned the hard way with that one. I have came in hot with, maybe with a coach or a parent, and and they're like, and just when I have sat back and assumed that my athletes and my coaches and the people I work with have best intentions, it just works out a lot better. And I don't think people are out. And yes, sometimes you have to have those hard conversations. And when a coach, that is truly what happened, or with an athlete. But when you assume best intentions and you assume that kind of positive, more proactive outlook, I think it really helps out. So if I were to narrow it down to three, I think those would be the three for a new athletic administrator.
Oh, I love them all. And again, we hear, communication is always one of our most frequently mentioned tools because it is so important. Obviously, being
Yeah.
a servant leader and serving others, serving kids, very important. Um, Assuming good intentions. I think we like to complain about parents and, oh, geez, these parents are crazy. But I think at the heart of their craziness, they want the best for their kid. They want the best
They
for their
do.
program. And that philosophy or that mindset that you shared, just, assuming those good intentions, I think really can go a long way with, I think you mentioned it, de-escalating a situation,
Yeah.
whether it's a parent or a coach or something. Great tools. I love it. That's why you're back on the podcast again. Um, one more time, if one of our listeners wants to reach out and find out more about how you do things at St. Croix Falls, or just add you to their network, what's the best
Mhm.
way that our listeners can connect with Tara Rose?
I'm on all the socials. You'll find me as Tara Lynn, Lynn, on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Tara Rose, Wisconsin AD on TikTok, LinkedIn. So you can find me on socials. I'd love to share about the work that I do and the positive things happening. You can also email me at Rose, ROSETA, at scfschools.com. Happy to, I love networking. I love getting to talk, and I'm always happy to help someone if they want to break into the world of athletic administrators, or they just need to vent, or whatever it might be. So,
Well, thanks again for sharing again with our listeners. All the best with all your winter activities
mhm,
up
yeah,
there in the snow. And definitely looking forward to the next time we can get you back on the podcast.
awesome. Thank
For
you so much.
listeners,
I love being here and being able to share.
oh no, that's why we bring you back. Hey, for our listeners, we appreciate you tuning in. And just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of every interview to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices from the world of athletics. So please come back and join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.